take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Lorian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
Several years ago, I was developing a very severe situation. I called it my flippy heart. It was doing not good things, and I did not want to go to a medical doctor because I just knew they would give me a cover-up pill. I didn't want to get onto that sort of thing at all. When I learned it was garlic and cayenne is a healer. It is a wonderful herb. I said, I think I'm onto something here. I'll tell you, I wouldn't be without it. It did wonderful things for me.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Stargate the Cosmos. I'm your host, Janet Care Lessin, and my co-host is Dr. Sasha Alex Lessin. Our producer is Thomas Becker, and our guest that's scheduled today is Russ Kellett, and we haven't located him yet, but we're working on it. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He's a contactor experiencer, and is in the military fighting extraterrestrials on far distant worlds for races and against races that are not human. Drafted against his will, Russ must do as told or die, as incoming hostiles threaten to destroy him and his comrades. Russ is returned, often within minutes or hours from when and where he was taken. These beings transcend time and space, and Russ is being transported to other realms, dimensions, and even time zones. So we're going to listen to Russ carefully if he shows up in this interview, as he reveals details he has suppressed, mixed with memories he could never possibly forget. So, in the meanwhile, the three of us are going to talk. Me and Janet Care Lessin, Dr. Sasha Lessin, and our producer Thomas Becker, and hopefully Russ will show up. So I'll start with Dr. Sasha. Sound check, are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Okay,
yes, I'm
good.
here.
Yeah, so, and then Mad Painter, you're able to hear us?
I'm always lurking in the background.
You're the lurker. Okay, so the three of us are writing books, and I know you're doing a magazine as well. So let's focus on you, Thomas, for a few minutes here. If you want to tell us, what are your latest projects? And first of all, what projects are you working on? You've got a book and a magazine. Tell us about the book, your latest book, and the magazine.
I've already got my, I just hadn't published it yet. It's called Red Sun, and it's about alien life around a neutron star. So it's a different take on.
What's your source of information? What do you
science.
where do you get your information? Okay, so you're incorporating science into this. So what is? Say it again. Let me write that down. It's called Red Star. What? Say it kind of again. Red Star.
Yeah, well, I hadn't decided if that was going to be the name or not. That's my working title at the moment. But it's kind of a discovery story of their origins, how they came to be who they are on their planet. And it's kind of hard to explain because it's an alien point of view. It's not a point of view that we would take, if you know what I mean.
Well, I'm looking at what's your inspirations, like how do you get your head into an alien perspective? Do you remote viewing into it? Are you channeling it? How do you get
imagination.
inside an alien's brain? Imagination.
Just imagination, I guess. I don't think I challenge anything personally. Now, I do use some of what I dream in my writings.
Okay. So what are some of the dreams that inspired you for this book? Do you find yourself on this planet sometimes in your dreams?
On Earth? No.
I mean, on this other planet.
I'm always somewhere else. I believe that we bilocate when we dream.
Yes. And I have
a lot of people do. A lot of people don't. They just dream. But I believe I bilocate.
Okay, so you're bilocating to this planet.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, kind of. You know, so I'm getting a little different perspective on. It's not a reality like we have. It's just, it's a different point of view is all. It's kind of hard to explain.
I have that happen too. I know it's hard to explain. I have that happen too. I find myself on these other worlds.
I do better explaining stuff by writing it.
By writing it, yeah. I know it's hard sometimes to verbalize it. So here I'm asking you to verbalize what you've written. Sash, do you have questions? Maybe you can help.
I can't hear you very well, Janet. Speak louder.
Yeah,
I am speaking loud.
You are a little low for some reason.
Why am I low? I'm asking you to help us with Mad being able to verbalize what he's experiencing. He's finding himself bilocating, like in the dream.
Well, what I get that would be really useful is instead of just words with your book, if you could just draw your conceptions, it would just be really trippy too, and intersperse it, or maybe you already have.
No, I haven't done no artwork for the book other than the cover, but I'm not so sure about that. But because it gives away the premise of the story, you're not even the whole story is about who they are, and you don't even know who they are until almost the complete end of the story, or what they look like, or. It drops little hints here and there of, different things about them, but you don't get a grasp on who they are or what they are until near the end of the book.
So you don't want to give away the story by drawing them. It's one of those surprise endings.
Right. That's why I didn't use any illustrations.
Yeah, I had one where the main character was a fish, and you didn't know it till the very end. It was fun.
Well, yeah. Now these are, they're an aquatic animal, but it's where they come from is a surprise ending too, which is going to lead into the second and then the third book. It's going to be in a trilogy.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we don't want to give that away because then. So you have to tune in and read it. So this
now I have literally played the first 3 chapters on the air on Revolution Radio before, so I wouldn't even remember what show that I did it on. It was one of my shows.
So this is a verbal book, an audio book.
There will be an audio version, yes, with my wife doing the female voice.
So how did you said you played it. I'm confused. How did you play it? I've
got the first several chapters already finished on the audio.
Okay, so it's just a preview. You don't have the whole book.
No, I'm not done with the whole, not the audio yet, no. And that I'm going to offer up for everybody at the station for donations to the station once it's finished.
Oh, cool.
Great. Yeah. So what inspires you for these stories?
I just got one hell of an imagination, I think.
Vision.
I just enjoy writing stories. I once in a while I'll read one of my stories on the air. I've got a few short stories that I read on the air once in a while.
Yeah, I've read some of your stories. They're very they have little twists and turns in them, and you're going, oh, okay, that's neat. And then the surprise ending. You like to do that. It's almost like Twilight Zone, and Outer Limits, kind of like that style.
Yeah, well, kind of. I like to make it a little interesting, and make you think. I don't give you too much information when I'm telling you stuff, and make you think about it. Or hopefully, anyways, And most science facts I use are actual facts. They're not something I made up,
Mm-hmm. So you like to read a lot of science?
I do. I do a lot of YouTubing on science, too.
So what's going on new scientifically that we need to know?
I don't know about anything we need to know. We got a lot of groundbreaking work being done in quantum physics and holographic universe theories. The next 5 or 6 years is going to be pretty exciting for all the physicists out there, I believe.
Yeah, what's Sasha, what do you know about science and groundbreaking science is coming up?
Basically, I think that all the information has been there at a spiritual level, and now it's the things that have been relegated to the zone of avoidance are being contemplated, and it's allowing us all kinds of freedoms. When the singularity within each of us lines up with the singularities of each and every other part of the universe, that means we're not separate from anything, and that we have transcended the matrix of time and space, which is merely a part of a continuous set of intersecting dimensions. And once you start looking at things that way, you start understanding that it's both the limited dimensions and the limitless ones. The more that you can embrace each of these opposites or apparent dichotomies or different units of consciousness, the broader your perspective becomes, and without losing any of the smaller ones. That's sort of my overview.
Well, yeah, I think this could be, whatever I'm writing down could be happening somewhere in the universe. It's so vast.
Yeah.
And even with my artwork, if I put it down on, and make something, it's probably out there somewhere. The universe is just so vast. And if it ain't in this universe, it could be in another parallel universe next to us.
Yes. And so once you start thinking that way, you're free of a lot of being caught in apparent oppositions. It becomes silly to you if you can, because you can rise to these other levels and see what's happening at this level without being attached.
Now you're doing a book on religion, right?
No, religion is just a very small part of it. It's called Perks, Problems, and Pledges from our Anunnaki makers, and it's about the booms, bummers, and promises that these guys that fixed our genome with they used their genome and then just some Bigfoot's ancestors' genomes to make us. And they were creating Earth as hopefully we get civilized enough so that when they had to abandon their planet, which ultimately was going to happen, there would be a civilization here that would welcome them. However, it didn't turn out quite the way they thought. But they gave us some of each, and they were a mixed bag. They gave us our life. We wouldn't exist if it weren't for them as a species. They gave us genes, lots of things. And my book goes into all the different times they gave us genes. A lot of times it was a lot of fun. They gave us science, technology, crops and livestock. They gave us psychedelics. Then they gave us beer. They love stuff like that. They gave us a lot of problems, too. They gave us what I call the dominator mindset. Murderous dictators, war, slavery in the home, in the military, financial slavery. They gave us short lifespans on purpose. You know, they were in this trip, and they still are to this day, where their rulers kill in order to be the boss. Everybody always competes with everybody else. Men squelch women. Winners rule the losers. And it's a bunch of bullshit. But in any case, that's the problems. The pledges, they say, hey, forgive us. We're going to help you get out of this mess that Prince Marduk, Satan, created, and we're going to help you come into the age of Aquarius. And so that's sort of an overview of the book I'm working on: Perks, Problems, and Pledges from our Anunnaki makers.
Huh. I find that interesting. A lot of things are they pinpoint. You know, the Sumerians done this, Sumerians done that, but they say it was already brought to them.
Oh, absolutely.
I never understood. Same thing with the Inca Indians. And
that's
the Mayans.
Right. It was all brought to them, and if actually my book goes into this, the people that brought it, the Anunnaki. They didn't invent civilization. They were part of a galactic federation, and they had wisdom and books and the history of the Lyran people and their extensive fight with the Dracos, and they knew exactly what they were coming to. They know that their scientists said, look, the planet is getting worse and worse and worse. And even if you can, just like we can build levees around the Alabama towns, but they're still going to flood the naval yards when it goes up, up, up. And so it's like that. They knew their planet's going to die sometime, and they looked at Earth as their refuge, the place that someday they would come to, and we would have evolved into these really cool beings that would really make them welcome, with a civilization they could recognize.
I think they messed up. What do you think?
I think it's they are just so conflicted within themselves with the very things that beset us. They almost wiped, and part of their problem was they almost wiped themselves out on a north-south nuclear war that left most of the people dying or sterile. I mean, and they came here and they just kept fighting, and they're fighting to this day.
So they're still part of our current politics.
There's what happens. They basically Marduk has organized mafias, which are they're mixtures of intelligence agencies and police squads, and they basically controlled everything and pitted them all against each other, and they're semi-autonomous, just like the gangs are in any big city, and they jostle for control, but it's all part of the same system, a system of brutal thuggery. And finally, the Anunnaki and their leaders, Anu and Galzu, the Federation, absolutely could not stand it anymore, and they say, now it's time. We are lined up with the Galactic Corps. We're sending back our best, and they're going to help you get through this. We're sending back Ningishia Toth. We're sending back Jesus. It's about time. This time, please, be gentle with him. You know, he's still got scars on his feet from last time.
Yeah, leave his poor hands alone. So what do you think's going on with all this craziness, Mad? You know, we've got our planet going nuts. We're going into 2020. We've got a presidential election. We've got all these people. Are we acting out what's always been, in your opinion?
I think a lot of it has to do with our diet. I mean, we no longer have the diet we had at one time, and we're missing the trace chemical elements in our foods that we used to have because of factory farming, and then you have the pollution in the air. You got the pollution in the ocean. I think we're dumping in a petri dish that we're living in. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. So, first, and then also everything we're drinking is full of all the pharmaceuticals and chemicals of all the drugs, and so it's very hard to escape that. I don't know. Is there a way to escape it at all? Is it just part of the cycle of, everything turns into water and mist and clouds, and it comes back down again? And isn't that, in a way, changing us? We either adapt to that or we die, because there's all these toxins down in the air. I've often thought that if we took a time machine, went back to, when I was born, 1954, this Janet probably couldn't breathe the air from back then because it'd be so different. I'd be, gasping and choking. What do you think? What do you guys think? Can we breathe the air that we were born in? Has it changed so much? What would happen now?
I believe it's changed.
We have adapted.
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit.
Right.
It was very interesting that back in the maybe it was the 70s or 80s, the people from a group of people from Gary, Indiana, which had worse air than Pittsburgh even, decided that they were going to move to someplace. I think they moved to Tracy, California, or someplace where it was really good air, and they couldn't stand it. They had adapted to polluted air. So I don't know. Janet will tell you stories about radioactive fish that proliferated where you'd think they would die. So what I know is we're becoming plastic. We have mini plastics in what we drink and eat. It's in our blood. Everybody's got it. And then they're putting all kinds of stuff that we breathe in the chemtrails. We are already wired with God knows what and what kind of programs are in this stuff. But anyway, it all comes down to we all gonna die. Have fun quick.
Oh yeah, that's that show you had yesterday. We're all gonna die. Well, yeah. Just think of it. How many people drink bottled water? I mean, how many bottles of bottled water have I consumed? And what's in that? Is that going into us? Am I now part plastic? Yeah. What do you think, Mad? What's going on there?
We are being changed. I mean, we are a byproduct of our environment. And, like I said, that Petri dish, I mean, if you put a germ in a Petri dish, what it does is it eats everything in there and then it defecates in the Petri dish and then it dies because it's in its own defecation. And that's just what we're doing on this planet.
Oh, that's a good analogy. Well, I often thought
and it's really what the biggest battle in India is over just that. It's about people are sick because of public defecation, which people do all over India.
Well, that's just one part of it. I mean, you got the pollution, which is, I'm including that in the defecation. What I meant was, the desecration of Gaia.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in Gaia. I mean, the reason it works is because it's the size that it is, and it's an intelligent being.
Mm-hmm. One of this on NPR, they had a program. They're saying, well, what might save us is the fungus among us. That fungus gobbles carbon and better than anything else, and you can eat fungus. The Aztecs, who I studied, used to eat the lake scum and the stuff from Lake Klamath and all that green stuff. It's really good, nutritious food. It helps the environment, and so that may be the way to live. We can just become happy scumbags.
Well, now there are people who think that that's what manna from heaven was. That it was a form of pond scum or earth scum, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
algae.
And they can literally make this stuff now.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Right,
and they can make steaks that are really not steaks at all, but they're, and we don't have to have cows killing the environment. That's wonderful.
Well,
Termites do more damage
Star
than
Trek.
cows, believe it or not.
What?
Termites?
Termites.
Oh.
Yeah, well,
They put off more methane gas than any other critter on the earth.
Oh,
Termites.
wow.
How many termites do we have on the earth?
You can't count them.
How many? I mean, it's like counting, what are the other ones called? How many? You're talking about termites. Not,
that eat wood.
Not cockroaches. Okay.
I don't know if they put off anything, but I know that the termites
what about on the... Okay, there are significantly more termites than there are people in the world. For every person on the planet, there are 1,000 pounds of termites. Not just 1,000 termites, but 1,000 pounds of termites. Okay, now I'm going to look at cockroaches.
We have to learn to eat them. We have to learn to recycle them. Yum, yum, yum.
How many?
Well, yeah. Now that's what they do. They do it in India. They eat the insects there, and and in other parts of the world, in the Middle East, they eat their bugs. But they're slightly different type bugs too than the ones that are here. I mean, you can eat grasshoppers and stuff like that, but I wouldn't recommend eating a cockroach from inside your house.
No, but certainly, when we eat lobsters and crabs, those are like spiders.
Yeah, they are. It's an aquatic spider.
Yeah.
Cockroaches are one of the most successful species on the planet, and they first landed in the Americas from Africa as early as 1625. So there are over 4,500 species of cockroaches, and there are 30 that are considered pests. Of the other 30, they are very much a nuisance. We have different cockroaches in Maui than the ones we had in Pennsylvania. I remember the ones in Pennsylvania had really hard shells, and it was really gross to smash. But the ones here, they're very fragile.
Where I'm at, we got about 6 different kinds.
Yeah. So, well, is that anything different though? Are there more termites and cockroaches now?
I don't know how much.
Have been?
I don't know how much methane that cockroaches put off, but I just know that when I was studying about it years ago, they said that methane from the cockroach or from the termites was worse than what man puts out. And
I think when they're talking about the cow problem, it's because of the destruction of the rainforest just to make way for cows. That's what my understanding is. It's
right now Bolsonaro is allowing it's a huge problem now. The Amazon is disappearing very, very rapidly under Bolsonaro, and he's encouraging it to be cut down. But what's going to do is it's going to change the entire planet if they continue at this rate, and they can show you what's going to happen to Argentina and the places downriver too. The cattle that you're supposedly clearing the land for ultimately won't be able to be sustained either because it'll dry up everything. I'm telling you, this is going to bringing the carbon process to a terrible, fast. This is the lungs of the planet that the Brazilians, and most Brazilians understand that even, and they're going crazy. They can't stop this president. I mean, it's like having a Trump and Boris Johnson all rolled into one. This guy is bad news.
So that makes me wonder, are they really human? These people that are killing the planet, or that's that one theory that we got from one of our super soldiers. Secret Space Program people, that they're just destroying the planet because they've sold off the crop, but the crop is humanity, so they're just prepared to
Could be a vast terraforming project.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, this guy says they're going to come down with a ship just when things get really bad and say, "Hey, we'll take you to a paradisical place." Oh yeah, well, save us! And we jump on the ships and we wind up at a pig farm.
Yeah, we wind up on their menu.
Yeah, how to serve man.
No, we'll be happy slaves. They sort you. They sort you by how they're going to use you. We're going to have Penny on in a few days. She'll tell you all about the different. They make cyborgs out of some. They eat some. They make sex slaves out of others. They use others people to just do some boring thing like shuttle an airplane back and forth, like a
volunteer for the sex slave stuff.
Well, apparently they don't give you any rest.
Oh no! You did it now you did it. They heard you.
Oh, they heard you. They're coming to get you tonight, so beware.
Yeah, I'm too old.
So why are they cutting down? They're going to create. What are they doing with this? They're creating crops. So okay, so I was.
Cows can eat grass. They cut down the forest so the cows can eat grass, and they cut down the forest so they can mine gold.
Well, it says.
Take the land away from the native peoples who have been. They're going to dry out the entire area. All of South America, south of the Amazon, is going to be desiccated. Fortunately, South America, most countries in South America are democracies, and the people aren't stupid. And they are enraged at what's happening, and the Brazilians themselves are going to stop this guy.
I hope they do it on time. But one of the things that I saw a TED Talk or something, in Africa they decided to replant, I don't know how big it was. It was it went from coast to coast. It was a big area, I don't know, let's call it 10 miles wide, and they planted this whole area from coast to coast in Africa, and it brought back the waters. It brought, what happens when you cut down too fast? All the rivers dry up, all the streams, everything dries up. So it doesn't work. You have to have vegetation. So when they started to plant, even just things that were drought resistant, they were bringing back deserts. Everything was coming alive again. So one of the first things they brought back in were their sheep and their cows. Because there was literally nothing left, right? So they brought back in, but not like a whole, ranch full of cows, a couple sheep, a couple goats, a couple cows. But the poop helped the things to grow again. You got to bring poop in. So the poop can kill us, but the poop can bring us back. So there's a balance between grasses, waters, poop, plants, trees. So there's some answers here, but we need somebody to come up with some. I guess it's about money. Is this about money? They're not even selling the trees. I'm looking at an aerial view. They're just letting the trees rot. So there's a product, trees, right? You can sell it, and they're just cutting them down, right? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, it's for production. It's greed.
Mm-hmm.
That's behind it. I mean, you want your dollar hamburgers, and that's how they get them.
Yeah. Well, maybe humanity's meant to go extinct. So there was a book called "Life, The Earth Without Us."
Oh yeah, there was a TV series on Discovery Channel, "Life After Us."
I didn't watch that.
It was pretty good.
So it was pretty good.
Yeah, it really talks about the end of the world. Well, the end of the world won't end. We might end, but the world's going to be here. I mean, there's very few things that will destroy the world. Even if we radiate it, it'll still be here.
It'll be irradiated. Well, Sasha was mentioning, I was on Johnson Atoll, and they had a nuclear explosion in the 60s, and they took the top part of the island, and they scraped it, and they put it over in the corner. This wasn't a big island. It was only 1/2 mile by 3 miles, and they put a chain link fence, and then the people that went in there had to put on their radiation suits, and yet we're taking hikes and walking past it, and the wind's blowing, and you know, all that's separating us from the radiation was a chain link fence, and I'm going, there's some lie here. You know, either that or they just brought us all to this island. They kill us slowly, although I'm still alive, and that was 23 years ago, so maybe I'll die from it in a year or two, who knows. But they had so much, there was fish and wildlife. It was ridiculous. You went out in the morning to, take your bike to ride to work. They didn't have cars. It was a couple cars, but no, the population didn't have cars. You had to ride your bicycles, right? And if there was a bird sitting on your bike, you weren't allowed to take it. You know, you had to let the bird sleep. You had to walk to work. But everything was close enough to walk. But sometimes you planned it down to the, I've got like a 5-minute bike ride, and then you've got a 10-minute walk. So I was like, damn, I got to be late for work. So, but there was so much wildlife. You could go down to the shore. You'd feed them your leftover food because it was an island. So if you had leftovers, you would just take like your steak bone down to the waters, and you had so much food there because it was a military base, and everything had to be eaten and thrown away. So you just go down there with leftovers, and these things with little eels, and they would crawl up all over your feet. There's so much wildlife. So any theories on what that was about? I thought it took a long time for radiation to clear up, but I guess it doesn't. Tell us about that, Sash. What do you know about radiation?
When you have radiation is one of the things that causes genetic mutations. Most genetic mutations are lethal. That is, the person that if it happens to a fetus, the fetus dies. Some of them are occasionally very, very beneficent. It could go either way. But our astronauts suffer from all kinds of maladies from radiation. And our time travelers like Andy, others have been exposed to radiation, have radiation poisoning and symptoms that clearly show that's what they had. Penny will tell you a little bit about that next when we interview her. But the radiation is extremely serious.
What's that noise? Did our guest show up?
No, I posted a link for y'all to check out. It's about the radiation from when they did all the testings in the 50s in the Bikini Island area. Where they put all the scrapings, and they stuck it underneath a concrete dome, and the dome is cracking and it is sinking.
Whoa. This was a terrible thing because they had our seamen who just won a terrible war all line up on deck to watch the nuclear missiles hit Kwajalein and Bikini, and all of these dudes that were radiated, and they died early, and they were told they would go to Leavenworth for the rest of their lives if they ever told anybody.
Well, apparently they launched from Johnson Atoll to the Bikini Islands, and the one that blew up over Johnson Atoll, it was like a failed launch to go to Bikini.
Wow! Right? Wow!
There's the connection. So I'm looking. This is a video, and the dome is cracking. Yeah. So the sea is rising and the dome is sinking.
Oh, that's terrible.
What are they going to do anything about it? It's 41 minutes.
Yeah, they talk about on there is how the soldiers who helped clean it up had come down and gotten sick, and they did nothing for them. The people who are actually on Bikini Island that they moved and then let back there have all getting sick, and they're doing nothing about it. They're
right.
Pretty much ignoring it.
It's our liability. We stole their island and polluted it. We got to help those people.
I don't think they know what to do about it. They create these messes and they don't even have the technology to clean it up. So I don't think they ever solved it on Johnson atoll. They were supposed to be disposing chemical weapons. They were supposed to be neutralizing all this radiation. So I don't know. So what? And apparently they have these dumps for all kinds of things, like the chemical weapons. When I was on Johnson atoll, we had to have a gas mask at our side at all times. You had to take it with you to work and bring it back at night. So you always had to have your gas mask, and you had like I don't know, 30 seconds to get your mask on. You had to practice putting your mask on, making sure it was airtight. It was all like this big story. I couldn't take the stress. I got to leave. I got out of my contract early because it was just so stressful living with that, you know. How do you sleep? How do you walk? How do you breathe? So they let me go home.
Yeah,
but those poor kids in the military, they're there. That's their assignment, and they're there for 2 years or 3 years.
And they wouldn't let you carry your desk around with you from school. Cover.
So, you know, we're approaching those days. I remember in California, the teacher, we had practice drills. The teacher would say a word "drop," and we're supposed to jump under our desk, put our hands over the top of our head, stick our head between our legs, and kiss our ass goodbye.
I never understood that. How that desk was going to help at all.
Yeah. That seemed like another lie. This desk is going to really do us any good. Yeah, right.
You know what Nikita Khrushchev's son said when somebody told him what we were doing in the United States. He said, we're more advanced than you in Russia. We each had our body bags right outside, and when our drill was, we'd get into our own body bags, so our corpse would be labeled.
Oh man.
Good for them.
I think he was joking.
A little convenience for the next guy, huh?
Make it easy on the guys. They have a lot to do. So, you know, the other day I woke up and I was thinking of that song from the 60s. You don't believe we're on the eve of destruction. I don't know why that was in my head. It was like I wake up with a song playing in my head, like a. So, what do you think about that? You know, here we are, and everything's heating up. Apparently,
it's the same.
China is going to invade Hong Kong or something, and there might be those people are saying we're going to die rather than surrender. What do you think, Thomas? What's going to happen with this world?
I don't believe we're headed for Armageddon yet. That's just my personal opinion. Now, last week, Sunday, I played a video about Isaac Newton, who is, you know, he's a physicist, and the law of gravity, pertains to his formulas and that. And he was an avid Bible thumper. And his prediction is 2060 that the earth is going to end, or that mankind's going to end, which I thought was kind of interesting. And he come up with it with a formula that he created out of Revelations and the Book of Daniel.
Oh, okay.
But the psychics I've talked to, I'm not real big on psychics, but every one of them that I've talked to in the last 6 to 8 months off air. Now, I don't usually talk to them on air, but I do know a bunch of them. They all said we averted it in 2012.
Yeah, there was that, what do you call it? The Nibiru one, the Planet X got diverted in 2012. But we still have the human element, seas of plastic and crazy people that can punch the button of destruction, and those elements that are...
Yeah, we could knock ourselves back to the Stone Age again. I believe we've done that a few times.
Apparently, yeah. But I'm just thinking, do you think we are on the verge of this destruction based on the current formula and projecting it forward? Are we going to? There's one ET person I'm going to have on. They said that their prediction was it was an EBE that they're channeling, and they're trying to get them on. But do you know anybody in our network that can translate Czech? These girls talk Czechoslovakian. They're Czechs. But if we have somebody, is that a language? Am I saying it wrong? Anyway, if we have somebody who can convert Czech to English, we'll get a really good story. But I was reading their literature, and they said that their ETs are saying that it's just going to happen one day, and then we'll be. Because we don't die, right? We think of this death stuff, but wherever you go, there you are. So we're going to have this Holocaust or this mass destruction, but we're just going to be instantly translated or into another dimension. So maybe that's what the ascension thing is about, this mass destruction. And we won't even feel it, just happen while we're sleeping, that type of thing. It'll be so fast. It's probably what happened to the poor people in Japan when the atomic bomb was launched. It was like so fast. They didn't know what happened. They were out of their bodies and they didn't really have any realization what was going on there. But do you think that you're thinking we can avert it? I'm listening to the Time Travelers on Apex TV, which are interesting because, it's kind of fun and fiction, but people are projecting what they think might happen, right? And some of them are saying that the ETs are coming in 2028. Some are saying that the time travel is going to happen in 2020. One guy said, I made it all up and it's all fiction, but Dr. Lessin, you have a good statement about where do you make it up from if everything's been created, all matter and all energy's already been created, it can't be destroyed. Where are you making it up from? Where is it coming from? So back to 182. What do you think?
I think it's useful to. I think that it's useful, given the things that you brought up, to consider the perspective that everything is just exactly as it should be, that you have chosen this moment to be here with the challenges that face you so that you can evolve to whatever is next for you. And the secret is not to worry about the past because it's long gone. You can get lessons from it, of course, but the past only exists in your mind right now, and not to worry about the future. You never get there. It just exists in your anticipations right now. And the way out of this whole matrix is just empathy, love, and compassion, to feel your oneness with every being and everything and every not thing that there is and isn't. And that's the basic message of all the sages, of the Buddha and of Jesus and of the Anunnaki, Enki, Aquarius, who's on our side.
Right.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I don't believe we're put here to worry about what comes next. Maybe the immediate future, but that's just because what we've done in the past, what we're doing in the now, creates what becomes our future.
Yeah.
So, don't worry, be happy.
I fully agree with that.
The function of worry, a psychological function of worry in a healthy human being is, there's something I should attend to. What am I worrying about? What actions are appropriate for me given the context I'm in now and my other interests? Worry is your friend if you don't let it go to neurotic places. It means pay attention to something. So is fear. When you're scared, look around. It means be alert. That's what's underneath that. When you're angry, that's cool too. It means you need to take effective action. Use whatever you think is a disruptor as a chance for you to learn. And so the challenges we face, which is becoming, I think you've really got it, Matt, is becoming aware of our relationship with Gaia. That is a major challenge, that we humanity are not separate from Gaia. We have to feel our oneness with Gaia in order to save our asses.
And that's what a lot of technology does, is it pulls us away from Gaia.
Right.
We're no longer.
Leave it in the ground. Leave the gas in the ground. Leave the oil in the ground. Leave it in the ground.
That'll be our new chant. Leave it in the ground.
I ain't saying the American Indians had it made, or the Mayans or the Incas had it made, but they lived closer to nature than we ever even thought about doing.
Yeah,
and that's what we need.
Right.
Yeah, I saw it so well outlined by Starhawk when in her fantasy about the fifth sacred thing, where after the Armageddon, the ladies of San Francisco got out there with pickaxes and broke up the streets and planted stuff. That's what that one way or another, we're going to go back to making our own food or not having it.
Yeah, I believe that. That's why we sell them seed packs here at the station.
It's your seed packs now.
Well, the more you're self-sufficient, the less you have to depend on the system, who is doing nothing but trying to get more from you.
That's right. The function of government is theft. The governments exist to steal from the people, especially the vulnerable people, for the people that are in power. That's what government does, no matter what else it pretends.
Well, we got 5 minutes. I can say it this time. Normally I type it.
We can say it. It's okay. We can say it. So,
but it'd be interesting to go back to that song and really look at each one of the things. Say the Eastern world is exploding, fires flaring, and bullets floating. You're old enough to kill, but not for voting. Hey, we made progress. You could kill and vote now in some states anyway.
Yay!
But the thing that really has made a difference is that one of the verses says that a handful of senators basically was stopping integration. That's in the verbs, and that's over. At least that's the one thing we did get from LBJ. We got a fairer shake than we've had before with the Civil Rights Act, so that we have made some progress. That's what I see. Anyhow,
I'll get the words for even.
I like that song. One line in there that really freaks me out is, "Remember to say grace as you eat your neighbor."
Woo! I'm gonna get the words for it.
I never heard that version. Oh my gosh!
No, I gotta find that. Here it is.
Yeah, I used to play that song quite a bit when I was doing music when the station first come around.
Oh yeah. Well, for some reason I woke up and we used to dance to that one, and we wore out my mother's carpet. She was so mad. She got this new carpet, and all these teenagers would come and, you have the record player. Remember those record players? We had to play that at least once an hour, and everybody got up and danced to that one.
That song took that guy from a nobody up into the top 10 in 6 weeks, and it freaked the music industry out.
Barry McGuire says,
yep.
I'm going to find all the words. I'll Google it. So, lyrics for Evil Destruction. we're going to come up on a break here. Hold on. I'll get it.
I might not have said that line quite right, but it's something.
Yeah, that sounds.
I got another one like that. It's from the Kingston Trio. It was they're rioting in Africa. There's trouble in Spain. There's hurricanes in Florida, and Texas needs rain. The whole world is festering with problems galore, and I don't like anyone anymore. But we can be thankful and we can be proud, 'cause man has invented a mushroom-shaped cloud, and we can be certain that some sunny day someone will push the button, and we will all be blown away.
Who sung that?
The Weavers and the New Christy Minstrels. Before you guys were born, probably.
Oh, no. I don't know about that.
The Weavers and the New Christy Minstrels. And the Kingston Trio.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of Kingston Trio. I've probably heard it, just don't remember it. I'm into music from the 79 and back. That's kind of my style of music.
We like Pete Seeger too. He gave us the best thing for unions, and unions really could help a lot. It was take it easy, boys, but take it.
I don't see the lyric about eating. Okay. You had a different version than I did. Take a look about it. I'm looking. I'm sitting here. I don't see the eating one, Mad.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it, but he does say something similar to that in that song. Says, remember to say grace. I know you can actually hear that real good.
You can hate your neighbor, but don't forget to say grace.
You can hate your neighbor. Okay.
Not hate your neighbor, hate your neighbor.
You hate your neighbor. That's great.
A break could be coming anytime.
So Mad used to eat
there
his
it
neighbor.
is.
All right. We'll be back in 5.
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Wadiya will remain a dictatorship. Or be quiet. Why are you guys so anti-dictators? Imagine if America was a dictatorship. You could let 1% of the people have all the nation's wealth. You could help your rich friends get richer by cutting their taxes and bailing them out when they gamble and lose. You could ignore the needs of the poor for healthcare and education. Your media would appear free, but would secretly be controlled by one person and his family. You could wiretap phones. You could torture foreign prisoners. You could have rigged elections. You could lie about why you go to war. You could fill your prisons with one particular racial group and no one would complain. You could use the media to scare the people into supporting policies that are against their interests.
Tune in Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time for Liberation Nation with Deacon John, where America comes to hear the truth.
I know this is hard for you Americans to imagine, but please try.
Ohio Exopolitics will be on from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Studio A. Mark Steiner will have guests on that will discuss many important topics, including the state of the world today. However, much of the show will be dedicated to the writings of Edward Albert Meyer. Let me read a short passage from one of his writings. Love is the highest principle of creation, and through it, everything exists in absolute logic. All of nature in its indescribable splendor is nothing but the love of creation, which is expressed visibly. The love of creation is everywhere, because without it, nothing at all would be able to exist. Please join Mark on Ohio Exopolitics from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on Studio A.
Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Lorian Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Extendivite really works. Just listen to what some people have to say.
Several years ago, I was developing a very severe situation. I called it my flippy heart. It was doing not good things, and I did not want to go to a medical doctor because I just knew they would give me a cover-up pill. I didn't want to get onto that sort of thing at all. When I learned it was garlic and cayenne, and cayenne is a healer. It is a wonderful herb. I said, I think I'm onto something here. I'll tell you, I wouldn't be without it. It did wonderful things for me.
Extendivite is only $69.95 for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid. Call now. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha and welcome back to Stargate to the Cosmos. Feedback, and I am your host, Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha, Lessin, and we're doing a panel discussion with Thomas Becker, Mad Painter. Russ Kellett, if you're out there, come on, we're looking for you. If you're our scheduled guest today, I don't know what happened. We'll find out later. I'm sure he's okay. Before we get back to our show and our conversation, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button on revolution.radio. Make your donation. We really appreciate your contributions because it helps us stay on the air. And I guess Hawk is still in the hospital, right, Mad?
Yes, he is, and he did want to convey the message that he sure appreciates all the prayers and well wishes that he's been getting.
Yeah, we can't wait till he gets back at the helm. Yeah. So we were talking about eating people. We went to the break room. It wasn't ate. We hate people. We don't hate. Sasha, you take the talking stick right now. Lead us down the road of the second hour conversation. Where would you like us to go? We will tarry with you. Are you there, even?
I think he's on mute.
Oh, hello. I've unmuted. Okay, so we could talk about a number of things. We could talk about the Anunnaki. I think that would be interesting. They had because the Bible conflated a whole bunch of ancient stories that were written in clay and translated by our teachers, Zechariah Sitchin and others. And they tell a whole different story, like there was 2 batches of Adam and Eves and stuff like that. So that's part of what the Anunnaki gave us. They gave us our genes. And the first Adam and Eve, or so to speak, Enki, that's the name, who we call Lucifer, was their chief scientist. And he lost the job of being boss on Earth to his brother Yahweh or Enlil. But Enki got the job of running the gold mines in Southeast Africa, the gold was being shipped at first it was mined by volunteers from Nibiru, the home planet, and it was then shipped from East Africa up to the Persian Gulf, loaded in Iraq, and put in rocket ships and sent to Mars for transshipment back to Nibiru, the home planet, where it's being changed into white powders and floated up in the atmosphere to try to plug the hole in the ionosphere. But in any case, all these guys had volunteered, and they were in the ground digging this gold. And these are people like us. They're way bigger, big, strong people, but they were eating dirt, and they were in the dark all day, and they were really having a terrible time. And the boss, Yahweh, Enlil, says, just make them work as much, if they don't work hard, don't give them as much beer or whatever. And it was just really hard-assed about them. And Enki said, listen, boys, I got a plan to get you out of here. And so he started, Enki went to his lab. He built a lab in Zimbabwe, and he brought his son, Ningishita, and his girlfriend, Nimma, and they started doing these experiments. They wanted to adapt their genome to Earth, but they wanted a kind of hardiness, and they were fascinated by Homo erectus, the ancestor of Bigfoot, because Bigfoot was communicating telepathically, letting animals that were suffering out of the Anunnaki traps, and Enki said, gosh, if only we could be telepathic and be compassionate too, that we wouldn't keep killing each other over who's going to be king and all that sort of stuff. And so he decided he was going to, the team developed this first atom. It was, and he didn't tell anybody, but his idea was, he told the gold miners, look, I'm going to get you out of here, guys. Just cut down on how much gold you're shipping, and, Yahweh will come down, he'll bring his son, Ninurta, Mars with him, and they'll see what's what, and then we can, then they'll see how we'll convince them. We'll have them in our court. And I'll come in just the right minute, and it'll be okay. And so that's what happened. They held back the gold shipments. Yahweh and his son come down to say, what's going on? The miners surrounded the place where he was staying. They started burning their tools, and these are other Anunnaki. They had no illusions that Enlil was a god. He was just their boss. And just when everything looked like it was going, Ninurta would have killed a lot of them. Enki steps in and says, wait, I've got a solution. I have developed with my son and my girlfriend, we have developed this creature. They'll do the mine work, and we can send these guys home, and they can have lives back on Nibiru. And Lil says, no way, you're not allowed to have slaves. Let's communicate with Dad back on the home planet. So they talk to Dad, and Anu says, look, save our planet. Keep the gold coming. Go ahead with your experiment. You can do clones. Okay. And so, they made the first atom, the clone. And, Janet, I'm getting tired of rapping. How did they make the first one?
Oh, God. You put me on the spot all the time.
No, not God. It was just Anunnaki.
It was the Anunnaki. Well, my perception of it, they had this lab, and Nimba was, and they were trying to figure out how to create this sentient, a being that would be conscious, sentient enough that they could use him as a slave to mine gold, but passive enough that they would do as they were told. And they kept trying, and they couldn't get it to work. They would use an earthling being that they had, which was the Homo erectus, and the creature would come out, and it wouldn't be able to hold its urine, or with all these defects, it couldn't speak, couldn't articulate, and they kept trying and trying, and it was like, this isn't ever going to happen. It's just never going to happen. And finally, through trial and error and just trying different batches, they came to realize that she was the chief geneticist on this project. And Nagashita was working with her and Toth, whose husband name is Toth, and then Eki. And I think Eki was probably her, not just her boyfriend, but her brother, husband. In fact, the Anunnaki believed in marrying their sisters, or their half-sisters. They were half-siblings to each other, and they were married, or they were involved at a much deeper level than it was biological. They were related. So anyway, they decided to take it from a vessel, whatever they were using to mix it, they put it into a vessel of clay, and they realized that it had to have some DNA from the earth. So that was part of the admixture that they were going to impregnate or implant into a Anunnaki female. And so when it came down to the point where they're going to try it again, Eki said, well, put it into Damkina, because Damkina was his political marriage wife, and he loved her, but it was like, this could be dangerous, and we'll just put it in Damkina.
What she's not, what Jen is saying is that they decided they would need mitochondrial DNA from a womb of an Anunnaki woman.
Right, I was getting to that. So it was So that was why they were putting it into an Anunnaki woman. Yes, they needed the mitochondrial DNA. Thanks for putting in that point that we need to have there. So what was I saying? Oh, so Nima said, "Oh no, this is too risky. With my experiment, I wanted you to put it in, the admixture into me." So what were you going to say, honey? Go ahead.
That's right. Well, it was critical that the first we have, you'll see another child that comes from another woman's mitochondrial DNA. So that's very critical. So now this child is coming out, and they remove it by cesarean. And what does she say when she gets the baby, Janet?
With mine own hands, I have created. So she was proud of it. She held it up. She goes, "Look at this thing. I made it. I bore it." And instead of, and this is really relevant now, instead of seeing it as a lesser or inferior being, she took it to her breast, and she loved it and took care of it, even though it was half this earth creature. So she saw how important it was, and she loved it. And so that was the important thing. And then you want to go into the next generation?
So that was 300,000. This was 300,000 years ago. And so what Adam looked like, his skin was red-brown like the clay of Africa, like the clay that the zygote had been stored in. That was his color of skin. He had brown eyes and black kinky hair. And you have to know also that some of the Nibiruans were also brown-skinned too. So that's the first boy. And they made clones of this child, of Adamu, as they called him. And the women doctors volunteered for batch after batch after batch. They were just becoming these machines, and they were not able to make enough clones to take care of the mines. They needed a lot more than just that. And so they had also made a female version, and they just made it anatomically like a female, but they didn't understand how to create creatures that would procreate themselves. And then Toth discovered the X and XY chromosome, and he secretly made the little girl, and we should talk about the little girl. The little girl was put into the womb of...
Okay, talk about that, then you're kind of jumping around. So you're going to talk about the one that was put into Damkina, right? You forgot to do that one.
What I was trying to say, Janet, was that once Damkina had given, thank you, I skipped the critical thing, that Damkina who's a blonde woman, we both caught each other, was the one that took the child that was supposed to be the female. And the first little girl born on Earth in this earthling hybrid like us was a sandy blonde, blue-eyed girl. So there we go. The first boy was this brown-skinned, dark-eyed boy, just like an Anunnaki boy in every way, except that he had a foreskin and the Anunnaki didn't. But other than that, he was just like any other Anunnaki child. And the little girl was blonde and blue-eyed. So we are brown and white from the get-go. The commander heard about these kids, and he said, well, let me see the clone masters. Bring them up to your place next to mine in Basra.
Wait. We got to back up. We got to back up because then they were infertile. The first Adam and Eve were infertile. How did they get fertile? So then apparently they Thoth figured it out, right? And he had Enki and Nimrod. He put them under some kind of anesthesia, and he took their rib, their DNA. That's what the confusion was in the Bible. The rib. What is the rib? No, they didn't take a rib out. He took their DNA, and that's how that generation became fertile. So we don't know exactly what happened, but we have this description that we have to look at. Is that your understanding of it?
That's really nice. Thank you, honey. It's we don't know what all they did, but it's obvious that that's where the stem cells are when you're talking. Is the kind of cells that can. That was about stem cells.
Yeah, you're disappearing. Can't hardly hear you. I can't hear you at all.
Oh.
You're still there?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm shouting.
Okay, now I can hear you. Yeah, things are going in and out. So, Thomas, Mad Tainer, what's your understanding of how humans came to be? What's your conclusion?
How we came to be?
Yeah, how did you?
I don't think we came from planet Earth.
Okay.
Myself, I believe we were.
What do you think happened?
I really don't know. There's several theories, but I believe we had our origins someplace else. And one time we were on Mars for a while. But that's just, my thinking. I think the Anunnaki may have come and dabbled and played and done what they done. We've got evidence of genetic manipulation through history, so. But
right.
We got a lot of anomalies about our body that doesn't fit to the Earth. We're not built for this type of gravity. We burn in the sun. We lose our eyesight because of the brightness of the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that just don't fit. But I don't know. I mean, it's all theory,
Yeah, well, we're just, none of us, we weren't there. We don't know, we weren't there. We don't have a time machine to go back there, so all we can do is speculate. But, this whole world is developed around religions and people believe in things. So you do a lot of interviews, and I just wonder what you thought, your conclusions, because you do a lot of interviews.
Now, Sasha mentioned rockets and stuff. I mean, we got some platforms that we can't explain. I mean, the Temple Mound and Solomon's Temple was built on top of a platform that we have no idea where it came from.
Yeah, do you want to talk about the platform, honey?
Almost all the ancient structures had on the top of them a platform for the landing of their craft, and some of the structures themselves were craft, according to Farrell and others. And Ahmad, you're quite right about the Lyrans. Our ancestors are ultimately a whole bunch of people from the Lyrans group, but a group of them had settled Mars way before Earth, because Earth was so covered with water vapor that only aquatic life lived here until the death comet that blew up Maldek came past Mars and took off most of Mars's atmosphere and water. But the people from Mars and Maldek who had taken shelter with them were okay below, and so eventually they and the Atlans from the Pleiadians settled on Atlantis and started killing off the dinosaurs that the Dracos had brought to Earth when they settled Earth from Venus and our moon, which they had placed there. And it goes on, but it's quite a story. But we definitely did come to Mars, and the war extended back and forth. And the Martians joined the other Federation forces chasing the Dracos from Venus, and they occupied Venus, and chasing them from Luna, and they occupied that too. And then it came down to most of the Dracos went underground. And then the Council of Atona got them to have a compromise and make all these proto-humans, including Homo erectus, which is one of our ancestors.
No, I don't doubt that. I do believe that we've grown and have adapted to this planet. You know, I mean, we are part of the genome here, and it could explain, you know, the reason could be because we were genetically manipulated with the stuff that was already here.
That's it. They deliberately included copper. I don't know if Janet didn't mention, but one of the big things that Nimrod said, copper. They need copper to get better neural transmission.
And that goes full circle to the conversation we had where you were saying, Thomas, that we thought the food was changing us and the environment was changing us.
Right. So, I mean, because we are part of the environment. We do change along with it. We have to we have to adapt or we wouldn't be around now.
Well, all that flows through us. We breathe, you know, all the air that ever was, will be, is here in this trapped ecosystem. And it goes round and around the earth, and we all take breath, and we inhale, and we exhale. So we're all one organism in that way. We're all breathing the same air. The same with the water. This is a closed ecosystem. The water is polluted in,
So, the air you breathe, somebody else has already breathed it.
Yeah. The air we breathe, Jesus breathed, right? I mean, it's the same air. There's no spaceship bringing in other sources of water or air from other places. So this is a closed ecosystem. And it's kind of, humbling to think about it. All these great people that lived, breathed the same air, and that air is going into us. So maybe in some way we all become each other because we're taking in the same water. The water gets used in all kinds of products, and we drink it, and we bathe in it, and we're all permeable. We're not
some of that
penetrable.
Some of that stuff they call junk DNA is actually DNA from other critters that are on the earth. So we carry bacteria from, thousands of years ago that don't exist no more, but yet we're carrying some of the genes from that bacteria just because, we've ate them, I mean, that's the best way to, or the easiest way for us to, have this DNA in our system.
Right.
Which is kind of weird sounding, but it's true,
It's true, yeah. It's like, so on some level we are all one, so, it's humbling. So, we have this closed ecosystem, and we're all in a Petri dish, and we're shitting on it. It makes no sense. How can we change people's attitudes so they start realizing that,
well, that's the biggest problem.
We are short-lived that we think we can just leave it for the next generation because, the secret space program, super soldiers say we have the potential to live, hundreds of thousands of years, and we just stop and think about it. We wrap our heads around it. We have this ability to solve the problem of why we age and die. And it's within our grasp. We have people who been in the 20 and back program. They get regressed back to, a young age after serving for 20 years. So what were you going to say?
Oh, if we have that ability, why don't we use it planet-wide, you know? Regress the whole planet back 50 years.
So if we did that, and if everybody lived that ever lived, how many billion people would we have, or trillion people? I wonder how many bodies, since the creation of human beings, how many human bodies took in souls to animate them.
There's more people alive today than lived before the 1900s in history.
Right. And I wonder how many people have lived, period, from all times.
Well, it all depends on when we got our start.
Right. So if we start with the Anunnaki, that was 300,000 years ago, right, honey?
Oh, there were people here a long time before the Anunnaki arrived, Janet. The Anunnaki were relative late. They only came here 450,000 years ago. Earth has been occupied for tens of millions of years.
Yeah, I believe that too.
I would also say that those things at one time dismissed as junk or non-functioning genes are probably timed genes that are activated when certain conditions are present. And I think that one of the activating conditions is the electromagnetic sense that we get now as we're aligned with the galactic center. And this is the time in all the traditions from the inner earth people, let's say this is when a Kalki comes. This from the Hindu people, this is the beginning of the miners, beginning of a mini Seti Yoga in the more Latin tradition. It's the age of Aquarius. Like this is it. And one of the interesting things is that Aquarius is here and not here at the same time for different people, and it's so easy. It's not that Aquarius is going to anything. It's already here. All you have to do is just be the love that's inside you and reach for the common ground with everybody else that you meet, because that's the same common ground. What do you love? What do you care about? And it's here now. It's our linguistic and intellectual distraction from the reality of our connectedness that feeds this illusion of separateness. And really, there's no separateness. There is no other. We're all of it.
Right. And we show that biologically. We breathe the same air. We consume the same water. And I guess the dirt gets recycled too. You know, the dirt goes washed into the seas and then the volcanoes. Everything. It's like one big giant recycling machine. So, Tom, Matt, you said you saw that series about what life would be without us. Did the Earth ever get pristine again when we were gone?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
it did in that series. I think it had like six seasons of it. I mean, it was pretty good. It went, so many years into the future each episode, and how things that decay and go back to nature. We've seen it in Chernobyl. Now, if you go to Chernobyl, that place is it doesn't look anything like a pristine city it was when they left it. When they evacuated
it. Like now?
Oh, it's almost completely, there's a few buildings standing, but, quite a few of them are gone. They're just overtaken by bacteria and stuff, break down the wood and break down the concrete. And, stuff goes back to nature.
Yeah, I was in the forest in Pennsylvania, and we happened upon a city that was developed during World War II, so that was in the 60s. And I was just shocked to see how the trees had broken through, the concrete and the plants, and had just, they weave right into it and takes it over. And it's like, oh yeah, that's a building there. I can see that. You can see all these things that how nature took it back. So that's good. So nature will recycle. Well, look at these large cities they find with the what do they call that? The LIDAR. They found in South America that are like as big as New York City.
And them were made out of
1,000 years ago.
And most of them were made out of stone. You know?
Right. Well, look at Angkor Wat. You know, the trees grow and the vines, and you know, before long, it's not there anymore.
Yeah, it took them 30 years just to dig that place out.
Have you traveled at all, Thomas? Or you?
I've been all over the Mediterranean.
Right. When did you do that?
Back in the 70s. I've been to Rome. I went to the Vatican to check out the paintings and the sculptures.
Uh-huh.
I've been to the Acropolis in Athens. Been to the Rock of Gibraltar.
Did you go with somebody?
I was in the military.
Oh, the military.
I even got to go to Romania one time.
In the military, you get to see the world.
That's the reason I joined the Navy.
Yeah. That's sometimes that's the only way people get to see things when they're in the military.
I did see all these ancient places and the artwork. I'm really was interested in all of Master's artwork.
Yeah, so have you always been interested in art?
Oh, yeah, my whole life.
An artist when you were a kid?
Well...
Did your parents encourage you to be an artist?
They didn't discourage me.
They didn't sign you up for art school or anything?
I've never taken an art course in my life. Well, I take that back. My ninth grade in junior high, I was in one art class, and what they had me do was paint murals on the walls inside there for my class.
Oh, what did you paint? What were the murals of?
Mushrooms, the Doodot Man, and stuff like that. Rainbows and butterflies. The guy that's got his foot out and his finger up in the air and he's wiggling his finger.
Oh, that's a Doodot Man.
Yeah, and he's got his foot out, one foot out in the front of him. Old hippie stuff.
I know. Yeah, I didn't know that was the name of the Doodot Man. That's cute. Okay, Sasha, we have less than half an hour, but close to half an hour. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I'd like to just suggest that a really interesting thing I do, which is each of you could actually do this and share it. Just imagine that you're lying in a meadow, and it's a really nice, peaceful place, and you sort of are dozing, and you hear a voice that, like inside of you or outside you, but it feels very compelling, and it said, "Listen, there's this wonderful cave where there's a wise personage waiting to convey a message to you. You just come take a walk down this beautiful, safe path, and you'll see the cave." So imagine, if you would, that you could get up, and of course, if you're driving your car, you should stop now and do this. But you get up from the meadow and walk down this pretty path until you stand before the cave. And as you stand in front of the cave, you get a sense that you should do some kind of preparation to go into the cave. And so just to think of a little ritual that you might do to feel safe and ready to receive great wisdom. And then when you're ready, go into the cave and behold the wise one, however the wise one manifests to you. And as you face the wise one, let the wise one understand what questions you have, or you can verbalize your questions or send them telepathically. What questions would you most like this wisdom figure to convey to you? The wisdom figure will reply with words or thoughts or pictures or riddles or songs. You can ask other questions and ask questions about the answer you get from the wise person. What's the question that you most want to know for yourself? What do you most want to know for humanity? and the wise one gives you some kind of a response. And the wise one also has a physical object to give you for you to meditate upon that will take you even further into this knowledge. So accept the gift of the wise one and go with that gift back out of the cave, back down the path to the meadow, and sit down in the meadow and with that whatever you got from the wise one and contemplate what it might mean. And then imagine you fall asleep and you dream that you're on the radio with Sasha and Janet Namad. And I'm going to ask each one of you, what was your encounter with a wise person and what object did you get and what do you take of it? And I'll start with you, Janet. You've done this before.
Oh, goodness. Well, I guess I saw too much Star Wars. I see like Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda or something, that's that I am imprinted, or the wise wizard. So it's interesting, my wisdom figures are male, and I'm female. Mm-hmm. So it's part of my indoctrination. So I see these wise figures. Someday I'll see a woman, I guess, but right now that's what I was imagining. Part of it's hard to imagine while I'm sitting here on the radio, so I have a little bit difficult.
You said a male figure? What could you?
Yeah, maybe I see male figures. Like I said, it was like an Obi-Wan Kenobi or Gandalf or Yoda, because they're my archetypes that of a wise person. But I don't have. I guess it's because of how I was raised and conditioned, because these are visual and they would say things. So when they're thinking of a wise woman figure, it's really hard because there's not a lot of archetypes in our society. I bet there's people out there naming names right now, but I was raised in 1954, born in 54, raised in 50, 60. So that's kind of like my imprinting. So
what was your wise figure. What happened? Describe the encounter.
Well,
what was your questions?
So I had a question for them. Well, I always go, "What's it all about, Alfie?" I was like, "What's this all about?" What is this, Alfie? There's that song Dionne Warwick, 60s. What's it all about, Alfie? Because it's logically, life doesn't make a lot of sense. It's some kind of virtual reality game, and there's always the mystery, the puzzle. So I didn't know what they were going to say, so I just said, "What's it all about?" And, it's just kind of rhetorical. It's not really expecting an answer. And of course the answer is life is the journey. So we're here on the journey.
Life is the journey. The answer is life is the journey. Thank you.
Life is the journey. So, be in the journey, enjoy the journey, appreciate the journey. So that was it. What was the other things? Part of
what physical object did you receive?
Well, I really didn't want any kind of like crystal. Right now, I'd like some cool air. It's very hot. And we were talking about the climate changes. I think that the hot is hotter right now. It only says 83 degrees and 85 on my clock. So it's really not that hot, but everything just feels so much hotter. So much hotter. So
and you got, let me understand, you got an object that, the object you got had something to do with the heat, or I must have missed something.
Well, I was imagining they're going to give me like a little crystal or some kind of new age something to hold and go ooh ah over. And I just said, man, right now I'm on this show and I'm hot. Can you somehow send me a cool breeze? I don't need an object. I would like a cool breeze.
You went out. I got it. You went out with a cool breeze. That was what you got.
Yeah. So I wanted a cool breeze. So I'm still waiting for it. Where's my cool breeze? There it is. There's my cool breeze. So that's what I got. It's what did you get?
Well, no, wait. There's more to it, Janet. If you were you were Yoda, or what is your existence as the wisdom? What are you like?
Obi-Wan Kenobi hybrid person.
Wise one.
I'm
what?
Wise. My main characteristic quality is not what I look like, but I'm wise. I tend to be long-lived because, it took a while to gain that wisdom. I didn't manifest and come into the body wise. I learned it from my path. So the message was to live life, and I guess live life and live long and prosper, and you'll end up wise. So
Fantastic.
Am I wise now?
Yeah.
I'm 65. Am I wise now?
The next step is to realize that that this is a aspect of Janet, that within Janet there is a wise one that is all these things, and all you have to do is think about the cave and Yoda. And say, part of me that embodies wisdom. I've been around the block a few times and observed some stuff. What do you got to tell me?
What do I have to tell you? Sasha or Janet?
What do you have to tell Janet? You're Janet's sub-personality.
Yeah.
I know you did. So you, but you're so that when you need, I think, to particularly consult your wisdom figure is when you're feeling dumb. Guess it's the opposite. And all of us are clueless and informed. We're both. We're clueless and we're informed both, and they're both parts of us, and we can use both.
Cool.
Okay.
Like that. Next person, Thomas Becker. Ask him the question, Sasha.
So what was your experience?
You guys there?
Well, I don't have a person I would consider as a icon for wise. I would consider a star, a sun. And
yeah, so like in the presence of a star or the sun, I can dig it. Wow.
It's a little bit bigger than most people.
Yeah.
I believe most of our, existence is because there is stars. Yeah. So
if you were the Solaris, or you were a star, what would you be like? What would it be like to be that?
I'm not really sure. I don't believe they're part of our. I believe they're interdimensional. I don't believe they're just here. I believe they're many places. I believe they're intelligent. I just do. I don't know why. The planets are their children, and they nourish and take care of them. And even though they got some that are snowballs and some that are deserts. They still take care of their children,
That's right.
As far as, what I'd ask them is probably, is it really worth it? Is life really worth it? I mean, do we have to go through this stage of our existence to pass on, or what? And I believe what it would give me as a totem would be a yo-yo.
What would the yo-yo?
It would symbolize the up and down that we all experience in our lives. It's the learning process of dealing, and teaches us compassion and other things,
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, you asked a strange question. So.
Yeah, that's Sasha.
Well, I'm a strange person. What else do you expect?
Well, you know what I meant. I mean, I don't look at it like a lot of people do.
I know. No, that's the whole thing. Nobody looks at it like anybody else. Everybody's right. They're all specifically oriented to see things and contribute their light in a different way. They're unique. And in my discipline, which is anthropology, we say everybody is like everybody else, like just some people and like no other people. They're unique. You're all of those. You're unique. You're like some people, and you're like everybody in some ways too. They're all true.
Yeah, well, we can compare us to snowflakes. There ain't no two alike, but yet they're similar.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
So, I don't know. I'm a little off on the side there.
So
cool.
Anyone in the chat who did this little exercise with us, there's a whole bunch of stuff like this up on my site, which is called EnkiSpeaks.com. And this guided visualization allows you to get in touch with your different aspects, your parts, and to find out what each part needs, and to be able to recognize, accept, coordinate, and synthesize and choose your behavior in ways that you, from a fair, neutral witness, you assess is best for you and the people you care about. And it's a technology that any intelligent person and unintelligent people too can master with just a little work. It's interesting and fun, I think.
I like that. Any intelligent and unintelligent people can master this.
Intelligence is merely a subpersonality, and underneath the person who is intelligence is the person that don't know nothing. And it's very important not to be a know-it-all, but to realize there's lots you don't know, and not to be I don't know nothing at all, but to realize you know some things. That's what being centered means. You embrace the opposites within you. They're all true.
I just like to pretend I'm intelligent.
And all our subpersonalities are. We all have intelligent subpersonalities, but the question is, some people deliberately don't lead with them. When I was at UCLA, there was this guy, we all thought he was kind of dumb. We wondered how he even got in our pledge class. He talked real slow because he was from Texas. Well, he was number one in engineering at UCLA. He just talked slow. Intelligence is there whether a person keeps it private or not,
Right.
So, we got about 9 minutes.
9 minutes. So any burning shares, as we say in our New Age encounter groups? Anything that you want to get off your chest, that you want to talk about, that came to mind? Any articles you read, things that were interesting?
Well, I find it really interesting. I've been working today with the stuff from Ken Johnston. This guy was the archivist for NASA, and he one day his boss he was an astronaut. He taught the astronauts in the Apollo series how to be in the space capsule and not throw up on each other and stuff like that. Anyway, so he became the archivist, and one day Paige, the boss, calls him in and says, "Hey, look at this!" And they showed this pictures of the moon that the Apollo mission brought back. Unmanned Apollo mission of all kinds of domed cities and so forth. And Ken was so excited, and he told his brother, and tomorrow we're going to show the whole base this film. The next day they show the film, and it wasn't there. He went back and forth. It still wasn't there. He couldn't believe it. They edited it in the night, and as he walked out, he walked past these people that were painting on these pictures of the moon. "What are you doing?" "Oh, we're painting out the background so people won't be distracted by the star patterns. They could just look at the pictures of the moon." And so he was, he took one. He went back and he found the real thing, and he took one of them and he secreted it. And then his boss said, "Get rid of all but 3 copies." And he didn't say get rid of. He said get rid of. He didn't say to destroy them. And he put them in a dumpster. And another colleague got another set of them, and he had his own set. And so then he has these real pictures, and he, under hypnosis, I hypnotized him, he realized that he had been programmed aboard a ship to secrete these pictures so he could prove that there's this vast development on the moon of these gigantic domed cities and all kinds of stuff. And then he and Brett Shepard started going over these in detail, and there's lots of pictures that he got from these original set that's totally different. And once you understand what these paint over guys were doing, if you can use colors and get underneath it, you can see the star pattern above the landmarks, and that lets you locate exactly what we're talking about. There was this huge war on the moon, vast destruction, and the moon is quite hollow, at least the surface of it. And the gravity is uneven on the moon because there's this vast equipment underneath, and there's all kinds of stuff and strip mining on a vast scale going on in all different parts of the moon. And so Ken is a whistleblower, and if you go to Enki Speaks, you'll see the pictures that he took and hear interviews that we've done and other people have done with Ken, a very courageous astronaut who felt that the public really should know that we have been to the moon. We've been there a long time before these guys came and did the film part that you saw in your living rooms in the 50s or whenever it was.
No, that was 1969, honey.
Yeah,
that was
69.
Yeah, I've been working with Ken for a couple of months now. I really like Ken. He's straightforward, he's down to earth, and he's no BS.
Yeah, it's like he also has these recordings. These guys are talking to each other, and their mics say, "Hey, what was that? Did you see that?" And they'll start saying a word like "duck, duck, duck, duck," or so it means shut the fuck up, shut the heck up. I mean,
Ronnie, don't curse.
But no, but these are astronauts. That's a quote. I wouldn't say that. That's the way astronauts do.
No, you would never say that live on.
I've heard some of the tapes, and they even reported music on the dark side of the moon, on the backside. Which really, kind of was strange to hear them talking about it. The actual tapes.
I hadn't heard about the music, so what were they getting?
They actually heard some kind of music.
Rock?
They didn't explain it. They just said it was some type of music that, which seemed kind of strange. And now the Russian astronauts actually, when they first went up into orbit, they actually reported seeing angels.
Yeah.
Oh. Like beings that had the wings?
Yeah. Giants.
Oh, that's interesting.
Too. There's a lot about space we don't understand at all.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll know the answer before long. I hadn't heard about that. Is that a YouTube or something? I'd like to check that out.
I've read it, and I think it's mentioned in a couple of YouTubes here and there, but I read it somewhere years ago.
Yeah.
I used to read quite a bit before the internet because you couldn't get anything about UFOs before the internet unless you went and bought the books,
Yeah, I got bit by a cat and I was in the hospital and I guess they gave me... I was having a gallbladder attack and they gave me... I think they gave me ketamine for the pain because I was just screaming. It was so intense. And as soon as the ketamine came on, I was in a circle with alcoves all around and it's full of angels. And I'm saying, but I don't believe in angels. And there they were. So I think sometimes these things are, hallucinate, but they might be revealing what's actually interdimensional.
This is true. We got 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay. Final word.
Janet, say how people can reach you and which books you've written, please.
Okay, so our main website is aquarianradio.com, where we keep all these archives of all these shows and links to, I put a show page up for each show. I'll have to create this one because we didn't have Russ Kellett today, but I will put a bunch of stuff in there. our other main site is anxiouspeaks.com. I'm developing extraterrestrial contact, a bunch of other websites. I've been playing with websites the last few months. I've got to go back to writing my book. My next book will be Dragon at the Center of Earth, or no, Dragon at the End of Time. Yeah, it's a working title. I haven't quite figured it out, just like a man. But Thomas, once again, your information, what are your shows? Oh, we have 2 shows on Revolution Radio, Sacred Matrix on Sunday, and this one on Tuesdays, 8 to 10 Eastern. Okay. Your turn, Thomas.
Too late.
Okay, right.
just Google a mad painter. You'll find me.
You'll find me. Okay.
And thanks, Ross. We know you're with us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Russ.
Oh, have a good night.
Yeah.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Narco-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week. Yes. But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting. Yes, I see. By a simple majority in the case of purely internal affairs. Be quiet. But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more... Be quiet. I order you to be quiet. Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look! Just a flesh wound.
I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerve, grace, and stupidity.
I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do, bleed on me? I'm invincible. You're a loony. The Black Knight always triumphs.
Roundtable Live, Monday through Friday, 1 a.m. till 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Bring your mind, bring your ideas, bring your voice. King Arthur had nothing on us here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com.
Oscar's freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
Your body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. Your heart's beating fast. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio.
The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite, surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing, in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in a direct line with a